So we have the, in this case, it's a snowblower engine, but it could be a push mower, it could be a snowblower, it could be a weed whacker, it could be a tiller, edger, trimmer, it could be whatever it may be. But basically, when you pull the cord back to start it like normal, and it jerks back on you really hard, there's usually one main cause for that. There's a couple different things that can cause that, but 95% of the time, there's one main cause for that, and that would be incorrect timing. When you're pulling it back, it's trying to fire at the wrong time, and it's sending the piston down when it's still coming up, and it's jerking really hard back on you. So what causes that, most of the time, is if you notice on this flywheel here, there's a small square hole cut out, and on this crankshaft here, there's a small square slot cut out. This is designed to sit right on here like this, square and straight and even, and there's a soft square piece of metal inside there called a Woodruff key. It's also known as a shear pin or a shear key. Some of them are round, so those are more known as shear pins. But anyways, it's a soft piece of metal that's designed to basically cut itself in half when the engine comes in contact with a large stopping force. So let's say you're using your push mower and you're going along and you hit a large rock or a branch or something that you didn't really see in the ground, and your engine stops. When it comes in contact with that, this soft piece of metal in there is designed to shear off to prevent damage from the engine, and as a result, this actually ends up rotating slightly, and that ends up changing your timing. The flywheel here actually has magnets built in that come past the coil, and that tells the engine when to fire. So if this is in the wrong position, it's telling the engine to fire at the wrong position, and it's pushing the piston back down before it even gets all the way up, and that's what's causing it to jerk back on you. So 95% of the time, you can take off there's usually a 15/16 nut here, or whatever size you may have, and then a cup for the pull start, and you can check and see if this is at the correct time. With the key in there, there will be a little chunk of metal in there, and it should line up square like this. However, if it isn't lined up, even that far off will cause it to fire at the wrong time. And then it's very simple. You just pull the flywheel off either with a puller, or there's a couple other different methods. Replace the key, they're usually less than $1. Put it back together and you're on your way again. Now, sometimes what happens, somebody ended up making their own key. They thought they'd get creative and make their own key out of a chunk of steel. And since that is designed not to shear off, it's too hard of a metal for this, and ended up actually damaging this crankshaft. And even if we did put a new key in here, it would no longer sit in the right position, and it would always fire at the wrong time. So this crankshaft is basically junk now. So that's kind of why you have to use the right parts, and it's not always a smart idea to make your own if you don't really know what you're doing and don't understand how everything works. So if the shear key, Woodruff key, shear pin, whatever you may want to call it, is broken, that will cause it to jerk back on you, and that's a really simple fix. However, the other cause of this is there are obviously gears inside this engine which connect the crankshaft to the camshaft, and sometimes they are made of different metals. Sometimes the shafts themselves are made of aluminum, and the gears themselves are made of steel, and this helps to reduce weight and increase durability and that type of thing. So since they are not one solid piece all the time, what can happen is, let's say you hit a rock or a log or something else, whatever it may be, and the engine suddenly stopped. This gear can actually rotate slightly out of position, and that will screw up your timing too. So when that does that, it doesn't mess up your timing electronically like the flywheel would. If it rotates out of position, it's still going to fire at the right time as far as the electronics go. However, the piston will be in the wrong position, and it will be too far retarded, and it will want to fire when you're basically still coming up with it, and that's what's causing it to jerk back down on you. So if your woodruff key is not broken and everything else has been inspected and it looks fine, it's probably going to be one of these gears in here that have shifted out of position, and that would basically require the engine to be disassembled and either the crankshaft removed or the camshaft removed and replaced, depending on what really went wrong in there. Sometimes, though, you can get lucky, and if it's rotated out of position exactly a tooth, you can just jump it back a tooth, and then your engine will run fine again. But I wouldn't really recommend that fix. I'd recommend actually replacing the parts as needed and doing it properly. So that's pretty much what causes your pull start to jerk back on you.